Just 1 year after the devastating cyber attacks on MOVEit, Progress Software has disclosed new critical vulnerabilities that are making us all tremble in our boots with fear of another wave of exploitation. What measures are recommended to safeguard against these newly discovered MOVEit vulnerabilities? Apple has quickly addressed a critical Bluetooth vulnerability in AirPods that would allow attackers within Bluetooth range to eavesdrop and gain access to your headphones. How did Apple manage to fix this Bluetooth vulnerability and prevent unauthorized eavesdropping? Developer errors have exposed sensitive data, including API tokens and credentials, in over 50,000 GitHub repositories. How can companies safeguard their Git repositories to prevent long-term exposure of sensitive data even after attempted deletions? You're listening to the Daily Decrypt. Progress Software has revealed 2 new authentication bypass vulnerabilities in its MOVEit file transfer service, one with a CVSS score of 9.1 out of 10, and the other with a 7.4. The company has issued patches for both vulnerabilities on June 11th of this year and has notified its customers. And luckily, there have been no reports of active exploitation or direct operational impacts, but there are proof of concept exploits and attempted attacks that have been observed. So just for historical context, and if you're not aware why we're so scared of the word MOVEit, last year, the MOVEit service faced major cyber attacks compromising over 2,700 organizations and exposing 93 million personnel records. So even if these new vulnerabilities are technically less serious than those ones, it's still going to strike a chord in our hearts because of the PTSD we face just hearing the words MOVEit. So if you're a MOVEit customer, you are strongly encouraged to upgrade to the patched versions immediately to mitigate potential risks and save your cybersecurity team from their night terrors. If you are using Apple AirPods to listen to my voice right now, and you're in a public space with people in close proximity, they could be getting this content for free by eavesdropping on you. That's right, there's been a recent vulnerability in Apple AirPods and certain Beats models that would allow an attacker to eavesdrop on everything that goes on in your headphones, including private conversations. And they do this by spoofing the name of a previously connected device, like an old iPhone or an old MacBook, something like that, which would allow them to listen to anything you might be saying or hearing. And as annoying as it is, a lot of times people we may be talking to on the phone or at work requires some sensitive information to be disclosed, right? Like credit card numbers to place an order, or like employee ID numbers, email addresses. So many times it's really pertinent to keep those conversations private, at least as private as possible. Now, you're only vulnerable to this exploit if you're in a public place, and hopefully if you're in a public place, you're doing your due diligence to not disclose sensitive information out loud, right? Because anyone could be recording you or writing down what you say. And that's a whole nother topic I would love to get into, but won't on this episode. But most importantly, they could be listening to this podcast episode without me actually getting credit for their listen count, all right? I need the SEO, I need the traffic, so make sure your devices are up to date. But this is one of the reasons that I love Apple devices, because first of all, they were able to patch this very quickly. As soon as they found out about it, they issued a patch. And when doing some research for this episode, I have a pair of AirPods Pro that were vulnerable to this exploit. And so I wanted to see, how do I update these things, right? And so I go into the settings, I'm searching all over through my phone, and I don't see any way to update. So I went into the article linked in our show notes below, which will link you to this firmware update announcement made by Apple. And at the bottom in fine print, very subtle gray text, it says, this update will be delivered automatically when your AirPods are in Bluetooth range of your iPhone. Amazing. So my AirPods were already up to date. I actually don't even use them that much. They've just been in their case and they're magically up to date. The version you can check for by going into your Bluetooth settings and selecting the AirPods is 6F8. If it says they're on that version, you're good to go. So that's just another check in the pro column to being an Apple user. And finally, a security research company named Aqua Security has revealed that over 50,000 repositories from top organizations, including Cisco and Mozilla, revealed credentials, API tokens, and passkeys that could be used for all kinds of unauthorized access in their systems. And if you're unfamiliar with the functionality of GitHub and Git in general, it's what's called a version control system, which allows you to more safely make changes to sensitive documents like code or software infrastructure, etc. But it works kind of like Google Drive. When you make a change to your Word document, you can go look at version histories, right? And see what it may have looked like a month ago or so. And that is extremely beneficial for software development. But if you accidentally commit and push some credentials that you shouldn't have, even deleting them won't completely get rid of them, which is what's called a phantom secret. And usually if you're working for a larger organization, they're going to have some sort of scanning mechanism that will scan for credentials, right? And then they'll immediately revoke them if they're found on the public internet. It's great, that technology. And if your company isn't working with that technology, I'd highly recommend you take a second and look into that, because these credentials can be used for all kinds of unauthorized access, depending on what they are, which could be tricky because this can also apply to any third-party services you may use. And if they have leaked their credentials online in GitHub, that could create an attack vector leading to your own company, right? If an attacker is able to grab credentials from a third-party vendor, they can likely use those to access their systems, which can then be pivoted into your systems, creating sort of a supply chain risk. And storing credentials securely is the bane of any developer's existence. It's super hard and it's finicky, and you have to use path variables and all kinds of crazy stuff, but hey, it's worth it. Don't even demo code by hard coding in credentials, all right? It's just a really bad habit. Don't do it, even if you know that code is not going anywhere, because it can have detrimental consequences. And also, getting exposure to these methods to securely store credentials will only help you in the long run.
This has been the Daily Decrypt. If you found your key to unlocking the digital domain, show your support with a rating on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It truly helps us stand at the frontier of cyber news. Don't forget to connect on Instagram or catch our episodes on YouTube. Until next time, keep your data safe and your curiosity alive.